The moment his eyes fluttered open, her world stopped. Anna had spent years in the emergency room, saving lives, stitching wounds, and bringing people back from the brink. But nothing had prepared her for this. The man lying in the hospital bed, weak but breathing, wasn't just another patient. He was Daniel Carter, the same Daniel who had been her best friend in childhood, the boy who used to sneak her extra cookies at lunch, the one who promised they'd always stick together. But that promise had been broken. 12 years ago, he disappeared without a word. No calls, no letters. Just gone. And now, here he was, bruised, hooked up to machines, barely conscious. And when she glanced at his patient file, her hands trembled. Daniel Carter, CEO, net worth $3.2 billion. Anna's breath hitched. How had the boy who once shared peanut butter sandwiches with her become this? And more importantly, why had he vanished from her life? Her grip tightened on his chart as 1,000 emotions crashed over her. Relief, confusion, anger. But before she could process any of it, Daniel groaned softly, his eyelids twitching. His voice was hoarse, barely above a whisper. Anna. She froze. 12 years. 12 years of silence. And the first word out of his mouth was her name. Anna's heart pounded. He remembered her. After all these years, after all the silence, he remembered. Daniel's eyes struggled to focus, flickering between confusion and something deeper. Recognition. His lips parted, as if he had 1,000 things to say but no strength to say them. Anna swallowed hard. You shouldn't be talking. You just came out of surgery. His brow furrowed. You're a nurse? She forced a small smile. Surprise. Daniel let out a weak chuckle, but then winced in pain. I can't believe it's really you. His gaze softened. I thought I'd never see you again. Her throat tightened. Well, you almost didn't. What happened to you, Daniel? His jaw clenched, and for a moment he looked away. Car accident. Anna knew there was more to it. The way his hands twitched, the way he avoided her eyes. It wasn't just a car accident. Something was wrong. But before she could press him, the door swung open. A tall man in a crisp suit stormed in, his expression sharp, his eyes darting between them. Mr. Carter, thank God you're awake. We need to discuss... Daniel cut him off, his voice suddenly strong. Not now, Ethan. The man, his assistant perhaps, hesitated. Then, after a brief nod, stepped out. Anna crossed her arms. Who was that? Daniel sighed. Someone who thinks money can fix everything. He turned back to her, his gaze unreadable. But not everything can be bought, can it? Anna held his stare. Number it can't. For a moment they just looked at each other, the weight of a decade pressing between them. And then Daniel said something that sent chills down her spine. There's something you need to know, Anna. The accident. It wasn't an accident, Anna's breath caught. What do you mean it wasn't an accident? Daniel shifted slightly, wincing from the pain, but his eyes never left hers. Someone tried to kill me. The words sent a shiver down her spine. She had spent years treating accident victims, but never had she heard one say this. Anna shook her head. Daniel, that doesn't make sense. If someone wanted you dead, why leave you alive? A humorless chuckle escaped his lips. Because they thought they had. His jaw clenched. The brakes on my car didn't fail by themselves, Anna. Someone tampered with them. Her pulse quickened. This wasn't just an old friend miraculously showing up in her life. This was something bigger. She took a slow breath. Who would want to hurt you? Daniel exhaled sharply, staring at the ceiling as if searching for answers. I have enemies, Anna. Business rivals. People who want control of my company, maybe even someone I once trusted. His voice dropped. But there's only one person who would go this far. Anna leaned in. Who? Daniel's gaze locked onto hers, and the weight in his eyes made her stomach twist. My own brother. Anna felt the air leave her lungs. She had expected a competitor, an outsider, not family. Daniel's fingers curled into a fist. He's been after my position for years, trying to push me out of the company, but I never thought he'd try to push me off the road. Anna tried to process it all, but before she could say anything, the door creaked open again. A nurse stepped in. There's a man asking to see you, Mr. Carter, she said hesitantly. He says he's your brother. Anna felt Daniel's whole body tense. Tell him I'm unavailable, Daniel said sharply. The nurse nodded and left, but the unease in the room remained. Anna swallowed hard. Daniel, what if he knows you survived? Daniel exhaled, running a hand over his face. Then I just became his biggest problem. And for the first time since she had found him in that hospital bed, Anna realized she might have just stepped into something far more dangerous than she ever imagined. Anna's instincts screamed at her. This wasn't over. Daniel was alive, but for how long? If his brother had tried to kill him once, what was stopping him from trying again? She pulled the curtain closed around his bed, lowering her voice. Daniel, you're not safe here. His jaw tightened. I know. Anna bit her lip, her mind racing. The hospital was supposed to be a place of healing, but right now it felt more like a trap. His brother was here, probably watching, waiting for the perfect moment to finish what he started. She grabbed his chart, flipping through his vitals. You're stable, but not strong enough to leave yet. Daniel let out a dry chuckle. That never stopped me before. Anna shot him a warning look. You nearly died, Daniel. You need time to recover. His gaze softened. You still care. She hesitated, but only for a second. Of course I do. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The past was thick between them, unspoken words and broken promises hanging in the air. But before they could go deeper, Daniel's phone, resting on the bedside table, buzzed. Unknown number. Anna's heart pounded. Do you think? Daniel exhaled and picked it up. He hesitated, then answered. Who is this? Silence. Then a voice. You should have stayed dead. Anna saw Daniel's entire body go rigid. The call ended. Her pulse spiked. Daniel. But he was already moving, gripping the bed rails and forcing himself upright. We have to go. Now! Anna stepped closer. You can barely stand. Daniel met her eyes, and the raw urgency there sent chills down her spine. If we stay, I might not get another chance. Anna didn't argue, because deep down, she knew he was right. Anna's hands shook as she helped Daniel out of the bed. He was weak, his body still recovering, but sheer determination kept him moving. His brother had just sent a clear message. You should have stayed dead. Which meant if they didn't leave now, he might not make it out alive. Anna peeked into the hallway. The hospital bustled with doctors and nurses, but a single figure caught her attention. A tall man in a dark suit, standing too still, eyes scanning the room like a predator. Her stomach flipped. We have company. Daniel gritted his teeth. Not for long. He reached for the hospital gown's pocket, pulling out something small and black, a key fob. He pressed the button, and somewhere outside a car chirped in response. Anna's brow furrowed. You have a car here? Daniel smirked despite the pain. Always have a backup plan. She rolled her eyes but couldn't help but be impressed. "Come on." They slipped out, keeping their heads low. The man in the suit hadn't spotted them yet, but Anna knew it wouldn't take long. Every step Daniel took looked like agony, but he kept moving. They reached the side exit, the cold night air hitting them like a shock. Parked in the farthest corner of the lot was a sleek black SUV. Daniel pointed. "There." But as they rushed toward it, a voice rang out from behind them. "Going somewhere, brother?" Anna's blood turned to ice. She turned slowly, her breath catching as she met the piercing gaze of the man standing under the streetlight. He was a mirror of Daniel. Same sharp features, same piercing eyes, but there was something colder about him, more calculated. Daniel's grip on her wrist tightened. "Stay behind me." His brother smirked. "No hug? No good to see you, Liam?" He took a step closer. "You really should have just died, Daniel." Anna felt Daniel tense. This wasn't just rivalry. This was hatred. Liam tilted his head, amusement flickering in his eyes. "Oh, and who's this?" His gaze shifted to Anna, and a slow, knowing smile spread across his face. "Your little nurse? How sweet." Anna's stomach twisted. He knew who she was. Daniel took a step forward, shielding her. "Let her go, Liam. This is between us." Liam chuckled. "Oh, Daniel, you never did understand how this works." His expression darkened. "She's already involved." Before Anna could react, two men in suits appeared from the shadows behind Liam. And in that moment, she realized they weren't walking away from this without a fight.